There was an Indian protest going on. There was a land dispute on the
I have
Six
that
Nations.
article in front of me. Now, this is. Are you talking about what occurred where this American officials came over the border and took this guy off a reservation and charged him with assaulting a U.S. government agent?
Well, actually, it's a Bureau of Alcohol and Tobacco Firearms agent.
Mm-hmm.
They got in a scuffle with one of the Indians there. The Indian actually did time in Canada for this.
Mm-hmm.
And when the Indian tried to come here, they were trying to prosecute him or thinking about prosecuting him in the U.S. I wanted to know why a BATF on-duty agent, American agent, would be on Canadian soil on their reservations, along with our border patrol.
That is interesting, isn't it? Well, it's because they're trying to integrate Canada, the United States, and Mexico into a North American Union. And I'm going to read the mainstream article out of the Native American Times on the other side. Thank you for the call, Leif. It was something we were going to cover, but now we're going to cover it in a little bit more depth. Back after this, it's the Info Warrior with Jim. If you're just joining us, Leif in Montana just mentioned this Indian who was on a reservation in Ontario, Canada. He apparently assaulted a ATF agent in plain clothes, by the way, a U.S. ATF agent. They had been threatened by some hate groups, and he had no idea who this guy was, apparently. They got into a little bit of scuffle. He ended up doing time in Ontario, but now he's being charged in Buffalo in the United States. So he already did time for this, and he's going to end up doing more time. And the caller brings up a great point. What are U.S. ATF agents doing in Canada at tribal regions? A Mohawk Indian from Canada pleaded guilty Monday to an American charge of assaulting a U.S. government agent who was observing an Indian protest in Ontario. Trevor Miller, who has already served time in Canada for the incident, told a federal judge in Buffalo that he didn't know that the man he confronted was with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives when he approached the agent's vehicle at the outskirts of the Six Nations Indian Reserve in Caledonia. We had been getting threats from numerous hate groups, Miller told U.S. Magistrate Judge Hugh Scott while pleading guilty in U.S. District Court. Not in a million years did we think that they were U.S. agents being in Canada. ATF Special Agent Stephen Dickey was parked in an unmarked SUV with 3 other law enforcement officers on June 9, 2006, when Miller, with a sheath knife around his neck and about 14 other Indian men, blocked it and began slamming their hands on its hood, authorities said. None of the officers observing the protest, part of a local land dispute, was armed or in uniform, they said. So then really, this is just outrageous. Miller was arrested April 1st, 2008 at the U.S.-Canada border crossing at International Falls, Minnesota. The U.S. plea agreement includes a possible sentence of 15 to 21 months, but Miller could avoid prison if the sentencing judge agrees to take into account his time served in Canada and his cooperation in the investigation. So I guess we'll see how that pans out. We brought it up. I mean, that's the best I can do on that one. All right, let's go to Leo in Massachusetts. Leo, you're on the line.
Hi, thanks for taking the call, Jason.
You got it.
Out of deference to real Indians, could you start calling these people Aboriginal Americans?
Okay, you got it. I'm not trying to insult anybody. I usually say Hindu
I know.
Indians
I'm a Tamil, and I lived in Sri Lanka between 1955 and 57.
Mm-hmm.
And I lived around the Sinhalese people in a Buddhist village.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother and I, at first, were looked upon with great suspicion, as though we were agents of one conspiracy or another.
Mm-hmm.
But once the people got to know us, they were right with us, man. You know, and it was like this whole thing came to a head in 55. They had language riots.
Mm-hmm.
And the people, they loved us so much, they came up and said, "Don't worry, big sister. No crazies. None of our crazies will come up and bother you."
Mm-hmm.
And we were the only Tamil in the whole area. See, the thing is this: in India, in England, under English colonialism, the Tamils thrived because we figured, we'll go getters. Well, let's learn English first. We'll get all the jobs. So we held all the government jobs. We controlled the economy, and we were like 15% of the population.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, gee, you're liberated. And the Tamils are going, I want to maintain my position. You know, I mean, this whole thing is totally nutso. I mean, I have no truck with these Tamils that, you know, they abuse Muslims too. I mean, and this whole thing about, when you get back down to the tsunami thing that happened there, you have to, right?
Well, let's talk about the tsunami on the other side, and then I'd really like to get your take on what's happening in Sri Lanka that European caller, the UK caller, called about, because I'm not really aware of that situation there. We're going to come back to Leo, go to Paul, Armando, and more. It's 866-582-9933. CigarettesChoice.com. Now, Leo, you were just bringing up the tsunami?
Yeah. Remember one of the Eastern members of the evil empire was kicked out of there?
I don't quite remember. When was that? When was the tsunami now? Was it back in 2004? Is it that long ago? Or was it before then? Or no, after then?
It was after that. But this other little outpost of the evil empire trained both sides, the Sri Lankan army and the LTTE Tamils, at the same base at the same time.
You know what that sounds like? That sounds like the School of Americas here in the United States, where we're constantly, training third world dictators and their armies. It seems like they want them to oppose each other and fight, so they can have money for arms. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. The Tamils are unfortunately very well organized worldwide, mm-hmm. and that's why I'm kind of afraid to deal with them personally. And I was born here, and if you wonder what I look like, I'm the guy in the funny hat who was at the Oath Keepers thing. What's his name? Aaron took my picture.
Oh, okay. All right. I think I do know who you are. Hey, man, I gotta jump, but I thank you for the call. Let's jump to Paul in Endy. Is that Notre Dame? I'm not sure. If it is Notre Dame, I wonder if he's going to talk about this Catholic. Oh, North Dakota. It's not Notre Dame. You're on, Paul, but let me make this point about Notre Dame. We had a representative with Alan Keyes on. Probably, Friday's show on Alex? Last week, like a whole week ago, we had Alan Keyes got arrested for protesting abortion with other people. Well, they actually arrested one of their own Catholic priests at Notre Dame today for doing the same thing. So I thought that was of note and something we should talk about. Go ahead, Paul.
Wow. Hey, Jason, I love the show. I just got turned on to Alex and you just, I don't know, probably about 5-6 months ago. And just something that's really crazy to me. I just noticed I'm in North Dakota and today in Minnesota, a 13-year-old Minnesota teen is forced to go under chemotherapy for cancer.
Yes, and I have that story right here, my friend. Let me just read it, and I'm going to get your comments on it. This is out of the Associated Press. Judge rules family can't refuse chemo for boy. A Minnesota judge has ruled that a 13-year-old boy with a highly treatable form of cancer must seek conventional medical treatment over his parents' objections. In a 58-page ruling Friday, Brown County District Judge John Rodenberg found that Daniel Hauser has been medically neglected and is in need of child protection services. And what this does is it sets a precedent for the state to decide how we take care of ourselves medically, what we can and cannot ingest in our own bodies, and what treatments we can allow ourselves to undergo. This is very draconian indeed. Continue.
That's right, Jason. It's saying that a compelling state of interest in the life and welfare of Daniel is sufficient to override the fundamental constitutional rights of both the parents and Daniel, the free exercise of his religion. And I don't know. He might have terminal cancer. There are different alternative therapies, that they do in places like Mexico and different countries where they're allowed to do different things. However you feel on that, it's a constitutional thing, and I don't know.
Yeah, and they try to put out the propaganda that if he does this, he has a 90% chance of survival. They don't want to talk about the percentages of alternative medicines or the chances of what will happen if they don't do it. And this is one of those tough wedge issues. On the surface, it's like give the kid chemotherapy because everybody's brainwashed that radiation is the way to go to treat cancer. Thank God I've never had cancer. I don't know anybody who's had cancer, but at the same time, look who brought it into this country, IG Farben. I encourage people, if they don't know, what this cancer industry is really about, to go check out G. Edward Griffin's A World Without Cancer lecture from the 70s. It's very, very telling and very mind-opening. You got anything else for me, Paul?
Well, right on, Jason. Yeah, first-time caller. That's all I really wanted to say today, but thanks a lot for everything you do.
All right, thank you for calling, brother, and I hope you enjoy the show. Let's go to Armando in New York. Armando, you're on the air.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. This is Armando. I wanted to just mention a few things. First of all, in Queens, it seems the swine flu is starting up again. They just closed 3 schools in Queens because of swine flu, and they said a principal had to go to the hospital in critical condition, but it seems like he's making it out of it.
Okay.
In addition, they're going to stage
the drills this Sunday over at the World
drill
Trade Center.
in Manhattan.
Yeah, we covered that earlier in the show, but yeah, let's talk about that for a second. They're going to be drilling a massive exercise of basically subway stations blowing up beneath the Hudson River, and then an attack on the World Trade Center complex. And this is going to involve a ton of first responders and really going to be quite a commotion in the city. And the article that I read from